Yo, what's up? This is Terad. Welcome back to my channel. That's right, Coach T's Business School of Hard Knocks, where business knowledge meets street knowledge. Hey, in this video, we're going to learn what an EIN is, the Employee Identification Number. In this video, we're going to learn what the tax ID number is. We're going to learn why we use the EIN. We're going to learn why we need the EIN. We're going to learn why we need the tax ID. It shouldn't take long. Just stick around with me. But hey, you already know what to do. You already know what to do. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. That's right. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. You know, because there's going to be some things here that you're going to probably not want to miss out on. And there are going to be some updates that you want to be updated on as soon as they're uploaded. You understand what I'm saying? So, yo, like this video and subscribe to this channel. But here we go. We're going to talk about the EIN first, the Employer Identification Number. The EIN is the Employer Identification Number. The EIN is a number that you apply for through the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. That's right. You get the EIN through the IRS. So with the EIN, you say, Terad, what does the EIN do for me? What does the EIN do for my business? Why do I need an EIN? That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. You see, the EIN, the Employee Identification Number, actually is the number that gives your business life. I just said something. I'm going to say it again. The EIN is the number that gives your business life. You see, a business, more particularly, a business such as a corporation, a limited liability company, a limited liability partnership, it becomes an actual entity. It is actually like you can even call it it's almost like a human being. It's an actual entity. It's recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. And the EIN is what tracks your business. Just like your social security number tracks you. Your EIN tracks your business. So when you apply for the EIN and you receive your EIN, your Employee Identification Number, your business just gained life. Your business just gained life when you get your EIN, your Employee Identification Number. You see, because at that point, your business has the ability to pay taxes to the Internal Revenue Service of the United States. That's right. Your EIN has the ability to pay taxes to the IRS of the US of A. I just made that up like real quick. That was real smooth. But anyway, your EIN, your Employee Identification Number, allows your business to report earnings and losses. As we said before, with your limited liability company and with your limited liability partnership, you actually have a choice to report your taxes as an S-Corp or a C-Corp. S-Corp being a small business and C-Corp being a big corporation. Well, your S-Corp actually being a small business corporation and the C-Corp being a big business, the big corporation. As we said before, there are some advantages to having an LLC or an LLP. And there's some advantages to having a C-Corp. But the bottom line is the EIN is what is going to allow you to report your taxes. You're going to report your taxes on your business with your EIN. Even if you report your taxes, your gains and your losses through your social security number, your business still needs an EIN so that you can see where the overall sources of revenue, the sources of income come from. So that's what your EIN is going to allow you to do. It's going to make you it's going to give you a legal classification, for the lack of any better term, to be recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. When you have your business set up as an LLC, an LLP, or some type of corporation, when you call the Internal Revenue Service and you're discussing business, the first thing I want to know is, what's your EIN? Okay, so that's why you need an EIN. Your EIN is primarily your representation with the Internal Revenue Service. Now, sometimes we get the EIN confused with the tax ID. The EIN is not the tax ID, your tax identification number. Tax identification number actually normally comes through your state. All right, and what the tax identification number lets you do, or the advantages of having a tax identification number, is with the tax identification number, you're able to make purchases. And you can make purchases for the business and not have to pay sales tax. Pretty much considered to be tax exempt. Tax exempt. If you have a tax ID number, you can become tax exempt. You can make purchases for your business and not necessarily have to pay taxes on the purchases that you make because you have a tax ID number. Now, you've got to be careful. There's some things, and there's some things you're not able to do that with. I mean, we can't really go too in depth into what you can pay taxes for, what you can't pay taxes for on this video, because it could become confusing. But the one thing you're not going to be able to do is you're not going to not be able to not pay taxes on purchases that you make if you don't have a tax ID number. Okay, now to learn more about what you can do with the EIN and definitely learn more about what you can do with the tax ID, just go over to TerodRobinson.com. Go over to my website, TerodRobinson.com, set up a 30-minute consult, and then we can talk about the things that you're trying to do, and we can talk through whether or not what you're trying to do makes sense, because taxes is something that you really, really don't want to play with, but it's really not something that's too hard to understand and too hard to control if you got some idea. But the big thing that you really need to understand is that your tax ID number comes through your state, and your EIN comes through is registered with the IRS. Now, with your tax ID number, one thing you definitely need to be concerned with, definitely need to be careful with your tax ID. And I actually got caught up with this when I received my first tax ID number. Is even if you don't use your tax ID throughout the year, at the end of the year, you still must report to your state what you made money on, the income you generated using your tax ID. Let me say that again. Even if you do not make any money or generate any revenue in relation to your tax ID, you still must report to your state treasury. The state treasury is where you receive your tax ID. You still must report to the state treasury even if you do not generate any income. What does that mean? There's going to be a form you're going to receive, maybe in the mail, or you may be able to even go to the website, and it's going to ask you how much income you generated using your tax ID. All you do is place 0. If you don't generate any revenue, you place 0 in the column for how much money you made. Then you're going to pay 0 taxes on your tax ID. Now, the mistake that I made was, given that I didn't make any money, I just didn't report 0. Given that I didn't make any money, I just didn't report anything. I didn't file the paperwork. And they'll send it to you for 2 quarters. You have to file every quarter. The second quarter, I didn't file again the second quarter. So at the end of the second quarter, they sent me a bill saying how much money I needed to pay. And it was a minimum, I believe it was $1,200 that I had to pay. Okay? Now, for someone that's not making any money using the tax ID, $1,200 is a lot of money. So what I had to do was I had to contact my state treasury department. Luckily, there was an office that was pretty close to where I was living. So I went down to the state treasurer's office and I sat in line for a couple of hours, and I had to go contest why I didn't think I needed to pay the $1,200. And the lady agreed, and she said, "Hey, well, that's fine, but this is your penalty. We're gonna wipe it clean." But my penalty ended up being $150. Well, it wouldn't have had to be. It wouldn't have had to be anything. Now, just to give you some idea of what type of business I was in. At the time, I was in an apparel business, clothing business. I had T-shirts and baseball caps. And as you can tell, I like to wear a lot of baseball. I like baseball caps. I like sporting apparel. I like the hoodies and the baseball caps. So as you can tell, but I was in the apparel business, and I had a clothing line, and with the clothing line, I sold baseball caps and t-shirts. Well, I used my tax ID to make purchases for my caps and my apparel. Just to give you some idea. So let's say that a cap retail for $20, but I can get them wholesale for $2. I get my logo embroidered on for another $5. So it cost me $7 to make that hat. But because I had a tax ID number, I didn't have to pay taxes on the embroidery, and I didn't have to pay taxes on the product that I was buying for the business. I only had to pay taxes when I sold the product and made a profit. Well, given that I didn't make any reports, the state just naturally made an assumption that I made X amount of dollars, and with X amount of dollars, I would have to pay at least $1,200 in taxes. Well, I hadn't made any sales. I hadn't sold any baseball caps. I had made purchases, but I had not made any sales, which means I wouldn't have had to pay any taxes. But I didn't report that I didn't make any money because I didn't make any money. So I just figured I didn't need to file, and because I didn't file, I received a bill from the state treasury department. And when I received the bill was for $1,200. What am I saying? When you apply for your tax ID number, remember, you must report every quarter, whether you make money or whether you do not make money. You must report every quarter. If you have any questions, please go over to my website, terodrobertson.com. Sign up for a 30-minute consult, and let's talk about what you're trying to do. I do not want you to get into a situation where you owe someone over $1,000, or you owe the state over $1,000, and it could have been handled for a lot less. Okay. I want you to know all the things that you need to know, or at least most of the things that you need to know in order to have your tax to run a successful retail business. If you're looking at getting into retail, and even if you're not looking at getting into retail, even if you're looking at just buying marketing materials and product, you'll be able to use your tax ID. Now again, with the EIN, you get the EIN from the IRS. It's a form SS-4. You can go to irs.gov, download the form, and complete it. Call the IRS. I believe it's 1-800-1040 or 188-1040 or something like that. And after you completed the form, call them. You'll recite that information back to them that's on the form, and they will give you your EIN number. You just write up in the top right-hand corner of your page, put it in a notebook somewhere safe, and save it. It's a free deal. Your tax ID, again, you get this from the state that you live in. Typically, it's the state treasurer's office. In most states, the tax ID, because you're dealing with money, it's going to be, or because you're safe, because it has something to do with money. You're going to get the form from the state treasurer. You can probably go to whatever your state website is, download the tax ID number. Or there may even be a place where you'll be able to create an application and file online right there on the website to get your tax ID. So, moral of the story is, tax ID you get from the state treasurer. EIN you get from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. Have any other questions? Have any questions in regards to tax ID or EIN? Please go over to my website, terodrobertson.com. And sign up for a 30-minute consult, and we can walk through and talk through some things and some questions that you may have. But again, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you haven't, go out to Amazon and purchase my book, The Best Idea I Ever Had Right Now. Again, The Best Idea I Ever Had Right Now. It's out there on Amazon. Go out there, check it out. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Once again, thank you for visiting my channel. And I look forward to seeing you again next Monday and Thursday.